And for more, let's cross to Philadelphia. Stephen Burbank is a law professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us here on France 24.
My pleasure.
Just explain it to us straight here for us watching it from elsewhere around the world. Is this just the sort of Beltway circus we're witnessing, or is it really a constitutional crisis?
I think it probably should be characterized as a constitutional crisis, and it's not just the Mueller report. The president is resisting any attempt to secure information, whether it concerns his tax returns directly. He's brought litigation to block third parties from surrendering documents concerning his financial affairs. Basically, the president seems to be putting up a wall against getting any information concerning him or his administration, and that presents serious problems in a system that depends upon three branches of government, not one or two, but three, and that gives the legislature not only the power to initiate legislation, but the power to conduct oversight over the other branches. You can't have effective oversight of the executive branch if there's no information coming from the executive branch.
Are there precedents of a U.S. president refusing such a request?
Well, there are indeed precedents in a variety of contexts. For many of us of my generation, and I'm pretty old, the precedent that leaps to mind is Watergate. And in the famous case of United States against Nixon, the Supreme Court forced President Nixon to turn over the tapes that ultimately sealed his fate. He resigned 16 days later, and it established a principle that's terribly important in the United States, namely that no person is above the law. President Trump seems to think that he may be above the law.
So what happens next now? How long will it take for when this resolution is eventually passed before the House of Representatives? What happens afterwards?
Well, it's not at all clear because if the Attorney General is found in contempt of Congress, the main mechanism for carrying that out would be for the Justice Department to initiate proceedings. Well, the Justice Department is not about to initiate proceedings, so it's going to be tied up in litigation for a long time, which may, of course, be precisely the purpose.
Tied up in litigation for a long time. There's an election next year. Would it run into to 2020 and beyond?
It could, although frankly, I think that the federal judiciary can and probably would try to expedite proceedings involving many of the issues that are raised, whether concerning the Mueller report, the president's tax returns, or the like. So I think we will have decisions before the election.
Stephen Burbank, explain for us the politics of this, because on the one hand, it seems like a partisan divide when you look at the report we just aired, but it's the Republican-controlled Senate that's subpoenaing Donald Trump's son, and we've heard Florida Senator Marco Rubio call for the resignation of William Barr, even though the same Rubio was campaigning alongside Trump on Wednesday.
The politics are rather Byzantine. It is fair to say that in general, the legislature has been intensely partisan. The Senate has been less partisan than the House, and that's typical of the American legislature. And in the case of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, that committee, perhaps uniquely in recent times, has been acting in a more or less bipartisan way. But it's an exception. The legislature has been quite partisan, and in terms of the Republicans, they've been lined up behind President Trump, no matter apparently what he does. And of course, in the House, for the first 2 years of the Trump administration, with the Republicans in control, there was no oversight whatsoever. One of the things I think that the Democrats are trying to do is to secure effective oversight going back for the full term of the Trump administration, because of course there are lots of questions that are raised by a business person who continues to have his businesses run while he's president of the United States and doesn't provide any information for the public to gauge whether there are conflicts of interest.
Yes, on that score, earlier this week, the New York Times reporting on Donald Trump's state tax returns. Okay, so we learned that he lost a lot of money in the past, and he's played it off. What could be so damning that he doesn't want to release these returns now, or doesn't want the full Mueller report to come out?
Well, there are a number of things in it, and I don't want to be too speculative here, but we have had testimony by Mr. Cohen, his former attorney, that the president misstated his assets in applications for insurance or the like. That could be a crime. There are all sorts of possibilities, going from criminal conduct of that sort to the simple fact that the president may not be worth anywhere near the amount of money that he has claimed to be worth for a long time. And money seems to be the thing that means the most to him.
One final question for you. You teach at Donald Trump's alma mater. On the campus, you have a wide variety.
He didn't go to the law school.
He went to the business school, correct. There's a wide variety of opinions, like on any U.S. college campus.
As an undergraduate.
And the question is, the students today, do they see this as just the new normal? What's the mood like on campus when this issue is discussed?
I think that even conservative students, most of them, are pretty repulsed by some of the behavior that they see. On the other hand, to the extent that they are attracted to the Republican Party, they'll stay loyal as long as they can. It's not a very good example for young people. What we're seeing in the White House, whether it's laughing about shooting immigrants or whatever other atrocity comes out on a daily basis.
Stephen Burbank, who teaches at the University of Pennsylvania Law School, many thanks for speaking with us here on France 24.
My pleasure.